Hey, how's it going, everybody? Some fun stuff for us to talk about today. Recently on the channel, we've been talking a lot about the amateur scene and the bubble scene and how it's important to kind of foster new talent so it can build them up and then bring them into the pro scene. Really important stuff to kind of that supply and demand and filter that stuff through. The reason why I bring this up is there was a new hire and an announcement that was recently talked about at how a former Riot Games employee is going to be joining the Rocket League Esports team, and I'm pretty excited about it. So before we get into all that stuff, as always, if you enjoy the content, like, subscribe, notifications, all that fun stuff. Links to everything we're talking about in the description down below. But with that said, let's jump straight into it. If you guys didn't see the Twitter post, Howon Lee, or CroissantCat on Twitter, has put out a post stating, "Today marks my last day at Riot. Incredible start for 8 years as an intern and all the way to now. Awesome to see and travel and do that stuff. Bittersweet moment, can't thank them enough." In a subtweet of that, talks about, "I'm also excited that I'll be joining the Rocket League Esports team." Doesn't say the title or the specifics of what's going on, but does state, "Can't wait with the adventure of what looks to be an amazing team, and will be in Rotterdam," which I think is pretty cool. Now, why does this matter? Why are we talking about this? Why is this a big deal? I did some deep diving and ended up pulling up Howon Lee's LinkedIn page with his resume and his details and some pretty interesting stuff. Number one, CroissantCat definitely spent a lot of time in France, might be able to communicate with the French players because the French players definitely keep to themselves, and I unfortunately don't speak oui baguette. So a little bit difficult there. But as for his background, he started in Riot as an intern in 2014. So you're talking 8 years in the industry and has kind of propped his way up. Worked in Paris a little bit before that and was a lot of focus on talent development in the sense of helping be that liaison for players, kind of listening to what they have to say and then providing it back and propping things up together, which I think is really, really cool. He was a pro player management coordinator for the EU League, the EU LCS, supporting the EU LCS and event logistics for pro players and player development. And I don't think it means like development, the player and the skills and the talents, but more so helping develop the space around them to make sure that they are happy with what the scene is turning into. This can mean a lot of the amateur scene. In 2017, he was then the lead for the EU LCS player development. 2 years doing his job really well, gets promoted. Love to see that. And revamped the Pro Player Summit and implemented training initiatives to help develop EU pros, as well as starting the new player conference to onboard rookies into the EU LCS quicker, which I love to hear. The fact that new players coming in don't have to rely on having veteran talent on their team to show them kind of the tricks of the trade. They have regulations and structure and saying, this is what you can come to expect. These are the standards that are being set. And it just helps make everything way more concrete. It kind of sets a standard for the way that we should go about handling our amateur scene, which we technically don't have right now. We don't really have any. It's the wild, wild west out there. People sign up for open qualifiers, and if you make the main event, good luck. Hopefully you can keep doing that. My thought process is, while I continue to read this resume, 2018 to 2020, he was the esports lead for Riot in Paris. 20 to 2022, competitive experience manager for Riot in France, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. So it continues to keep going. He actually replied to this and talked about stuff saying, you know, it's crazy how much of my public info is out there, but he hasn't updated his LinkedIn in a while. To add some more context, I did a lot of work building out esports ecosystems in France, League of Legends, Valorant, and Teamfight Tactics. Player and league management over in Berlin. The guy's been busy and looks like he's extremely talented at what he does and is an extremely good fit for Psyonix, which is something I usually criticize Psyonix a lot for. They aren't willing to go out and spend the money and get someone who is qualified that can make a massive difference. This acquisition makes me really excited because I keep reading the resume and it only gets better. He'll be coming over initially to take over events from Murdy, because obviously Murdy is probably going to move up to Corey's position. Corey was the one that was kind of the lead at RL Esports and has gone over to Amazon. So Murdy's probably going to bump up, and then you're going to see Howon Lee kind of take the position and kind of help be that mediator between players. I think, again, if you can provide this structure that we haven't had, I think will be really exciting. He's still discussing the exact scope. He doesn't officially start. From what I've heard, he starts officially on December 5th. Regardless, the first few months will be all about learning the scene and how Psyonix works, but he's really excited about the future of Rocket League. Someone does end up putting out a standard comment on Reddit and says, you know, I don't really know anything personally about Riot's esports division, but from outside, it seems like their whole team kills it. And he provides some context. He's like, yeah, there's a few hundred people on Riot's esports team globally and like 9 or 10 in Rocket League esports, which I think is a massive problem. That can also be a systemic thing and the focus of where Psyonix kind of thinks about the esport, whether it's just a marketing tool or an actual business that can be successful. Take notes, Riot is very successful for a reason, wins esports of the year. every year, rambling a lot. But he does say, I got to meet almost everyone during the interview process, and everyone is so talented. Really excited and honestly believe we can kick a lot of other esports titles, but buy those esports skins so we can get more of Fortnite's esports budget. Again, talks about some of the things. There is a lot of statements that he makes in here that make him human. It's not a PR answer. It is very direct, straight to the point, profanity that's used. It's kind of a breath of fresh air. And maybe this is just me being like, there's something new and it's exciting and I'm being like blinders on. But the resume, I think, speaks for itself and it continues to trickle down. So a lot of really exciting things. And I have kind of done a lot of like homework about this situation, tried to look back, tried to see like the different things that he's done. And he talks about how some of the things that I've discussed as well in the past about how the ecosystem that we have for the amateur scene is not one that can be profitable. It's just not a thing. People aren't going to watch the amateur scene, which is going to drive numbers for sponsorships and everything else. But by physically supporting that, like Psyonix allocating funds to that, you can give a standard salary, you know, for amateur players that are kind of ranked that 17 to 32 area. Players can make anywhere from like 30 to 40, $50,000 a year. That is survivable. That is decent living for a player who's trying to play as a semi-pro. And that will climb, obviously, as you get to more and more and higher and higher. There's kind of this conversation about how he's not exactly sure what the variables are, and that's what those first kind of iterations are going to be. It's kind of that discussion of trying to identify what is missing, how can we transition this into something that is more successful. And part of that comes with supporting the players, making sure that there is a physical structure that people can compete in and have consistency in, creating depth of talent, and then helping with the business side of things, bringing in investors, helping support and find funding so it is not out of their back pocket, which again, at the end of the year, they're going to be like, we're spending so much money and there's no return on this. It's not going to stick around. They've got to find other ways to supplement that. So he's talking about the ability to turn it into growth, the excitement. I think someone who has been in this space and has done kind of the been there, done that for Valorant. You see how successful that is. League of Legends, Teamfight Tactics, and everything else. And has had the people surrounding him to be successful. To be able to showcase that stuff, come in and say, hey, this is the way we need to approach it. Let's build this up and show how successful it can be, I think is really exciting. And to see the very lack of professionalism, I don't even know if it's just pure excitement from what I read anytime I read this guy's Reddit comments. It feels like he can also see where we come from as a community. There's no reason that Rocket League as an esport shouldn't be absolutely massive. It has all the things needed to be successful, accessibility, esports related, like it's non-violent, like there's so many things going for it. So why isn't that it isn't bigger? And I think he sees that and expresses that from what I'm reading. It's just kind of a vibe that is being given off that he's like, yeah, there's a lot of opportunity here, but we're just not tackling it the right way. And I hope he can come in and kind of make that stamp. So talking about how, you know, not everybody as a pro at that level can be a, you know, a signed and sponsored team or anything like that. But, you know, in time, hopefully we can get some sponsors to invest more and do these types of things if we provide a structure that makes sense. So I'm really looking forward to it. I really hope that this isn't me just kind of blowing it out of proportion and you know, having blinders on and being excited about, you know, some sort of change. But these types of people, I think, are the ones that can make or break the Rocket League esports scene and really help push it to that next level. So a lot of experience. I think the players, again, are going to be the ones that I reach out to the most after all this. After a few months go by and after he kind of gets into the swing of things and becomes that liaison or that former Murdy position where he talks and interacts with a lot of the players. Not only will that allow Murdy to kind of take steps up and start doing some of the other projects because he's wearing too many hats right now, but hopefully Lee can come in and say, hey, I got you. I'm going to handle the player stuff. I'm going to create a system so we get to hear our voices. We get to grow and be able to provide that feedback. The players feel heard and that communication gets better and the pro scene continues to take a step in the right direction. So fingers crossed, but I think this is a pretty cool signing. Kudos to Psyonix on picking someone up like this and finding a way to pull them away from Riot. Again, don't know the specifics of as to why leaving Riot, but again, I don't think we're ever going to get to. I will try to do my best to sit down with Howon Lee and see if he wants to talk and connect about this stuff. But I, for one, am pretty dang excited about this signing. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Links to everything I'm talking about, the Twitter posts, the LinkedIn page, all that kind of stuff, and the Reddit post talking about it where he has a lot of responses if you'd like to see those for yourself in the description down below. And while you're down there, check out the social medias. Go give those a follow, like, subscribe, notifications, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.